Hello! It is day 2 of Advent of Code. Advent of Code is a fantastic series of problems, programming challenges. Each day a new 2-part puzzle is revealed. Last time we got set up and I tried to create a database and I was so close, but I kept failing. And there's one reason I kept failing. I'm going to show you it now before we get stuck into day 2's challenges. If you haven't watched day 1, anytime I hit an issue with the database, skip that part, but it will get you set up. It will get all the code that you need in. I'm going to show you the one fundamental thing I was doing wrong that will stop you from going wrong. So what we did was we downloaded Rancher, we downloaded Azure Data Studio, links in the description. We then grabbed this second command down here, how to use this image, second one down, docker run. We came over, we opened up a PowerShell terminal and we whacked that in there. And all we did was we came along to MySQL SA password, super admin, and we changed the password to be password1. Something easy, something memorable. We talked about why we might use a really simple password like that because it's not storing sensitive information. It doesn't really matter. I'm not worried if someone breaks into this database. They're not going to find much out. We did that. We ran that command. That's all fine. That's all great. That's actually perfect. But what was happening then is we'd see it in Rancher. So we'd open up Rancher and in the containers section, if it's not there, just go out and go back in. It will load. We'd see it there. Okay. Oh, we did add a name flag, I think. If I bring this back up. Sorry. We added... No, that's the wrong thing. Okay. We added... if I come back to the start of this command, we actually did just add -- name, and then we typed in SQL Server. If you don't do that, it will just give you a random name, which you might be fine with. I need it organized. Need it organized. So we did that, ran that command. We got this called SQL Server. Okay, it's running. You can see it's running. We then tried to connect to it using Azure Data Studio, and this is where it all went wrong. And I'm going to show you why it went wrong. Let's clear this list. Yep. So I was doing in server, I was saying localhost, 1433. This was failing, and I couldn't for the life of me work out why. This is why. Instead of localhost, I needed 127.0.0.1. Oh, it makes me so angry. Everything else perfect. So, username SA. Password 1 with a capital P. Don't care about the database. Let's remember that password. Encrypt false. Trust server certificate false. Server group default name. We're going to call it local SQL server, and we're going to connect. And boom, we're straight in. Look at that. Boom. Here on the left, servers. We got local SQL server, and we got our databases. And oh my goodness, we can see it's got AOC 2023 inside of it. It's got day 1. Oh, let's select the top 1000. It's got data. It's got data because I ran the solution. Last time, because the database wasn't working, I couldn't run it. And so I didn't know whether it was actually working, whether the code was any good or not. Turns out, perfect code. In fact, so perfect. Where's my screen? Here it is. So perfect that we got our second star. So we got the answer and we have got our second star for day 1. I literally just at the end of last time, right? Stopped the stream, fixed the database problem, got the database connected, working. I've updated the connection string here. So in AOC 2023 DB context, you need to change it from localhost to 127.0.0.1. Then when you run your code, Bosch console interface, it will say importing. It will then finish importing, and then it gave me the results for part 1 and part 2. I checked part 1 was correct, checked part 2 was correct, and all is good. So now what we're going to do is move on to day 2. Everything's working. I could not be a happier elf right now. I was so happy that that we managed to iron out that little annoying little hitch. So we're going to pop back to the calendar. We're going to jump into day 2 and see what day 2 has in store for us. Let me just grab my reading glasses. Lovely stuff. And let's see. Day 2. Cube conundrum. I've not read this. I've not done this one. This is brand new to me. Okay, you're launched high into the atmosphere. The apex of your trajectory must just barely reaches the surface of a large island floating in the sky. You gently land in a fluffy pile of leaves. It's quite cold, but you don't see much snow. An elf runs over to greet you. The elf explains that you've arrived at Snow Island and apologises for the lack of snow. He'll be happy to explain the situation, but it's a bit of a walk, so you have some time. They don't get many visitors up here. Would you like to play a game in the meantime? As you walk, the elf shows you a small bag and some cubes, which are either red, green or blue. Full disclosure, I'm colourblind. If this has to do with mixing colours, I might just end the stream now. Each time you play this game, he will hide a secret number of cubes of each colour in the bag, and your goal is to figure out information about the number of cubes. To get information, once a bag has been loaded with cubes, the elf will reach into the bag, grab a handful of random cubes, show them to you, and then put them back in the bag. He'll do this a few times per game. You play several games and record the information from each game, your puzzle input. Each game is listed with its ID number, like the 11 in game 11, followed by a semicolon separated list of subsets of cubes that were revealed from the bag, like 3 red, 5 green, 4 blue. For example, the record of a few games might look like this. Game 1, 3 blue, 4 red, 1 red, 2 green, 6 blue, 2 green. Sure. In game 1, 3 sets of cubes are revealed from the bag and then put back again. The first set is 3 blue cubes and 4 red cubes. Second set is 1 red cube, 2 green cubes, and 6 blue cubes. Third set is only 2 green cubes. This feels intense. The elf would like to know which games would have been possible. The elf would first like to know which games would have been possible if the bag contained only 12 red cubes, 13 green cubes, and 14 blue cubes. Does he put them back in the bag? Reach into the bag, grab a handful, show them to you, and then put them back in the bag. Okay. Which games would have been possible if the bag contained only 12 red cubes, 13 green cubes, and 14 blue cubes? In the example above, games 1, 2, and 5 would have been possible if the bag had been loaded with that configuration. However, game 3 would have been impossible because the elf showed you 15 blue cubes at once. If you add up the IDs of the games that would have been possible, you get 8. If you add up the IDs of the... Okay. Determine which games would have been possible if the bag had been loaded with only 12 red cubes, 13 green cubes, and 14 blue cubes. What is the sum of the IDs of those games? Okay, got it. Let's go. So, we are doing this in 2 parts, this series, okay? We're doing handling the data, and then we're solving the puzzle. So we're not even going to think about 13, 14, 15, whatever, okay? All we're going to think about is getting this data into a usable format for us. So we're going to grab our puzzle input. I'm going to take my reading glasses off because I don't need to read code. It's like a neural link. We're gonna pop this in a new file. So we're gonna go to our solution, data. We're going to add a new item. It's going to be a text file. And we're going to call this, we're going to use this exact same syntax, right? So it's day-2-1, sorry, day2-1.txt, bosh. And we are going to paste that in. Now, I said I would forget this every time, but I'm not forgetting it right now. We're going to right click on day2-1. We're going to go down to properties, and we're going to do 2 things. We're going to say the build action is content. I'm going to say copy to output directory, copy always. And that means that our file will always be usable. Now we need to get a file importer set up. So I'm going to leave this open. We might kind of consult this. We only want to know, we only care about blues, greens and reds, the highest value of each, right? When we import these. So game 1, we just want to know the highest value for each that we've seen. So I reckon we have a game, it has an ID, and it has blue, green and red. Okay, that's where we're starting. Right, database model. Let's add a class. I'm going to call this elf game. Yeah, it's a game. Yeah, it's a game. Elf game. He didn't give it a name, did he? Let's just double check. It's not called like Flurgen Bjergen. Dude, Cube Conundrum. Cube game? Elf Cube game. Let's call it Cube game. Cube game. The elf might not have been made by the elf. Might be more of a reindeer game. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, we're gonna make a public class cube game, and that is going to inherit a generic DB model that we made last time. That gives it an ID automatically. We're then going to let's chuck in a public cube game there just to get us cracking. We're going to have a public string, and it's going to be called red. What colors do we have? Red, green, and blue, right? Blue, green, red, red, green, blue, red, green, blue. Yeah. Public string red. All of these are going to be public get, so just get, and private set, so private set. Lovely. Wow, does it know? If it does green, I'm going to lose my mind. Oh, I know it's green. It's listening. It's listening. Oh my goodness, that's shivers. Okay. Anyway, right. It's just basic stuff probably. So we got our ID, we got our green blue. So we're gonna the ID is gonna be automatically assigned. So that's a good question. Let's go to our database. ID starts at 1. Cool. That's great. ID starts at 1. That's great. We're gonna, when we get a cube game, so we actually just gonna duplicate that because we're gonna use a second constructor, but this time we're going to expect the let's call it game data, right? So whenever we make a cube game, we're going to expect just a line, like this line, for instance, okay? And we need to go through and parse that line. So how are we going to do that? I guess we just split on... We split on semicolon. We need to get rid of this first. I guess we split on the colon first and discard. Then we trim. Okay, split, colon split, trim, semicolon split, comma split, 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 split. Okay, so game data. So the actual game data that we want, var split game data equals game data dot split, but not on. This is wild how good the suggestions of this are getting. Game data dot split on a colon. Okay, so that means that it's going to be split into two things: this part and this part. Well, actually, it's going to be split with this. So we're going to call trim on the end of split just to get rid of any white space. Can I trim? I can't, because actually what I want is I want position 1 dot trim. So I just want the end section. So I want this bit. So this bit will be position 0. This bit with the space will be position 1. I guess I could split on colon space. Makes no difference. Makes no difference. I think colon space is a lot more subtle, right? Because it's not easy to see that there's a space in there, or if that's intentional. So we'll trim it. We then end up with this. So then what we want to do is we want to say individual games, var individual games equals split game data dot split. It knows on the semicolon. It's weird. I said out loud exactly what I want to do, and it now knows. It's listening. It's for sure it's listening. So now what I want to do is I've got this split by semicolon. Now I need to go through each game. So for each game. Why have I put these as strings? These need to be integers. That was dumb. that was a hangover from last time where we were working with integers but storing them as strings because it was easier. For each var game in individual games, we are going to say, we're going to say var game equals game.split, and then we're going to split on the semicolon. So game, I guess we're going to say game.trim.split, just in case. I feel like there's a lot of weird white space rocking around in these, like semicolon space 1 blue, comma space. Maybe I should just be doing split. Maybe I will just put, instead of trimming everything, maybe we'll just do colon space, semicolon space. That's not happy because I put a single quote instead of a double quote, and you can't, oh my goodness, what's going on? Sorry, I thought it was on a MacBook for a second there. That, colon space, semicolon space, comma space, and then we won't worry about trimming. Let's not, there's bigger things to worry about. Okay, so that's all of our games. So our games are comma separated, and then we need to split on that. I think yeah, because it's a model, we need to keep it quite simple. So we're going to say we've split on the comma, so now we've got a number and a colour, and they're separated by a space. So we're going to say for each loop in a loop, ugh, you hate to see it, for each, I feel like we could be doing something a lot more sophisticated here. We might go back and change this. I'm just kind of mapping out the logic, right? So for each var single, for each var color in games, var split color, oh, don't like that, equals color dot split. I mean, it's very accurate, and we're going to split that on space. Now our number and our color are going to be two different things, so we're going to have var number equals split color at position 0, and at split color position 1 is going to be our color. This needs to be colors dot split color equals for var turn in individual game. I've not named these very well, it's getting a bit confusing. I'm going to leave that as it is. I'm just going to say var color equals split color 1. If you think of a better variable name, please use it. Please. Okay. Split color. So we've got number and we've got color. So now what we need to do is we just need to check what color it is. Now the colors should be consistently named. Red, blue, green, red, blue, green. Yep, sure. We're just going to do a quick and dirty if statement. Or a switch. Switch. Let's do a switch. So we're going to switch on color. If color, so in the case that it is red, we're going to say if we need to parse the number. We need to parse this. So we're going to say int.parse. We know it's always going to be an integer because of the way the puzzle input's given to us. It's guaranteed. And it is number first, isn't it? Yep, number first. We're going to say if number is greater than red, the property that we've got here, that needs to be in brackets. Oh my goodness, what have I done? It blinged at me. If number is greater than red, then red equals number break. Let's put break on a new line. Cool. Now we just need to do that for blue and green. So let's do that. Let's do that. Let's do that. So if it's blue, if number is larger than blue, then blue. There is much easier ways of, there's maybe not easier, more sophisticated ways of doing this. This is quite, what you see is what you get. If it's red, if it's blue, if it's green, if it's not red, green or blue, I want to throw an error because I'm not expecting it to not be. So I'm going to say throw new exception, and I'm going to say something like color is not an expected color. And that way, if we get some weird input, we'll be able to see it in the console when it throws the error, and we'll be able to see what we're actually getting through there. Okay, this is going to then go through all the data, and we're going to update our values of red, green and blue based on this input. And then we're going to write them to the database. So that's our model. We're going to go and we're going to go over to our data importers. I'm just going to copy day one data importer, and I'm going to paste it into data importers. I'm going to rename it, and I'm going to call it day two data importer. Lovely. I'm going to have to change this. So day one data importer is going to be day two data importer. This day two is going to be day two. And over here where we've got base, we're going to change that to 2 as well. We're going to do the ensure delete, ensure create thing. Actually, yeah, we'll leave that for the time being. In the future, we're gonna make this better. We're gonna take these 2 lines out of here and put them elsewhere. But for now, we're gonna leave that there. Get puzzle data from file. You remember we wrote a base class that does that for us. So that's all handled for us. So we don't need to worry about where the data's or how we're getting the data. That deals with that. For line in data, our model, instead of being a calibration value, is going to be a cube game. And instead of adding it to day 1, we're going to add it to day 2. And it's going to be like, what the heck is day 2? Because it doesn't know what day 2 is. Where's our DB context? Here it is. We've got a day 1 DB set, but we don't have a day 2 DB set. So I'm going to duplicate that. I'm going to call it day 2. And I'm going to change the type of this DB set to be a cube game. Oh, lovely stuff. Also, what we're going to need to do is we're just going to need to tell it that it's got a particular ID here. So see, we've got a configure ID for calibration value. I'm going to duplicate that, and instead of calibration value, we're going to use cube game, and that's just going to set the model up. Because the model is a generic DB model, we did that. Yep, we did. So that's all good. It's got red, blue, and green. Okay, let's go over to our program. Have I missed anything? I did that quite quick, didn't I? That's quite that was quite fast and furious. Day 2. Yep. Okay, cool. Database. Yep. Let's go program. Instead of saying importer equals new day 1 data importer, we're going to say day 2 data importer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, can I say return here? Yeah, I can. Fantastic. And that's just going to stop this stuff from running because I just want to make sure that it's importing. So let's run this bad boy. Of course there were build errors. We're missing a semicolon. I thought we would be. Need to do that. That's fine. Unreachable code detected. Yep, that's intentional. That's fine. Importing. Finished importing. Lovely. Let's go over to Azure Data Studio. Let's run this query. No, we don't want to run this query again. We want to refresh. Right click on AAC 2023. Refresh. Open up tables. There we go. We've got day 2. We're going to right click on day 2. Select top 1000. and we've got red, blue, and green, and they're populated. 386. Right. Let's just do a quick eyeball check. For ID 1, 386 should be the highest numbers. We've actually got numbers in. No errors got thrown. This is perfect. So 3 red. So let's do a quick Control F on red. Right, so there's 3, 3, 1, 3. So we know that red is, that's as much as red is. Okay, blue. What was blue? Was in our database. Blue was 8, and we can see on this line we've got 7, we've got 1, we've got 8, so that's looking good. And we've got green, 5, 6, 1, 5. So this should be 6. Lovely. From that one little test that we did, that's given me some confidence that this has worked properly. Okay, so we've imported our data. It's in the database. Now we just need to solve the puzzle. What is the puzzle asking us to do? I've completely forgotten. Okay. Which games would have been possible if the bag had been loaded with only 12 red cubes, 13 green cubes, and 14 blue cubes? What is the sum of the IDs of those games? So we need to get the IDs where red is less than or equal to 12, green is less than or equal to 13, blue is less than or equal to 14. That's a job for Link. Let's go. Right, so we're going to jump over to our solution. We've got a day 1 puzzle here. We're going to copy this. In fact, this is the time where we interface and analyze this. Okay, an interface is basically a contract, and it tells you that if something is of this interface, these are the things it should have. That was a perfect explanation. If you didn't understand it, totally your fault and totally not my fault. So we're going to call this an iPuzzleDay. It was my fault. That was a goof. .cs. Okay, iPuzzleDay. It starts with an I because it's an interface, and you'll see the magic of this. You will, surely, sure enough. We're going to call. Is this good? No, this isn't going to be internal. It's going to be public. iPuzzleDay. Every single puzzle that we solve is going to have a solve part 1 and a solve part 2 element. So we're going to say public string solve part 1 colon semicolon, duplicate that, solve part 2. It's not a class, it's an interface. So I need to rename this to interface. Then it'll be happy. That's all we need to do for this. We're not actually going to say what solve part 1 does or solve part 2 does. We're just going to say that anything that is an iPuzzleDay must have a solve part 1, must have a solve part 2. Now, when I come along, blah, 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 and I add a new item, and I'm going to call it day 2 puzzle. That's what we called day 1. Going to keep it consistent. I'm going to add that. Okay, day 2 puzzle. And I'm going to make this public because the console app will need to access this. Day 2 puzzle. How do we do a day 2 puzzle? I can't really remember. What did we do for day 1? Instead of faffing about with all that, we're going to say iPuzzleDay. Okay? And the genius of this is, it's going to complain. It's going to be like, you're not fulfilling the contract. You should have an interface member called solve part 1 and an interface member called solve part 2. And we can be like, cool, control dot, bang, implement interface, enter, yes please, boom. Okay, solve part 1, solve part 2. Wait, what did day 1 have? Oh, it had exactly this. But we're not using the interface. So we just did this ourselves. But we can interfacialize, efficate it. Interface. What am I doing? Not interface. iPuzzleDay. Sorry, I got confused with that terrible word that I just made up. iPuzzleDay. Solve part 1. I called this solve day 1 and solve day 2. That's silly. That's really silly. This should be solve part 1 and this should be solve part 2. What a goof. Goodness sakes. Okay, now it's happy. Okay, because that conforms to what iPuzzleDay expects, which is a solve part 1 and a solve part 2 method. That's actually been quite useful in bringing up a little bug there. So this is an iPuzzleDay. It's got a solve part 1. It's got a solve part 2. We need to grab our stuff from the database. So we're going to say var db context equals a new AOC 2023 db context. We're going to say db context dot day2. Did I add? I did. Question mark, because it could not exist, even though it does. It definitely does. It might not exist according to the compiler. We're gonna chuck this in a list. We're gonna then when you're chaining commands like this, just put each command on a new line, makes it a lot more readable. To list, we're going to say where. Now, we have our model, and we want our model, so we're using this arrow function to say, like, take that model and then apply this expression. Model.red is greater than or equal to 12. Greater than or equal to 12. And model.blue is greater than or equal to, what's blue? 14. Oh, I got them out of order. Let's do green. Green greater than or equal to 13. And model.blue is greater than or equal to 14. It's not greater than at all, it's less than. It's less than. We need to make sure there's less than. The game's only possible if there's 14 or less cubes that we've seen get pulled out of the bag. So less than. Don't get your crocodiles the wrong way around. You'll have an absolute nightmare. So we're going to grab all of those models where the model has that configuration, right? Its red value is less than or equal to 12, its green value is less than or equal to 13, its blue value is less than or equal to 14. We're going to select model.id, and we are going to sum those models. Oh, it's so beautiful. Look how easy that is. Var result equals that. We are going to return a string with our result. I'm saying that now on day 2. When it gets to like day 10, I'm going to be crying and be like, why doesn't this help? We're supposed to make it easier. And that is our day 1 solved. So let's, part 1 solved, sorry. Let's go over to the program. There's too much junk open here. I can't see anything. Let's close a lot of this down. Day 1 data importer doesn't need to be up. Day 2 data importers, we might need that later. iPuzzleDay can go because we've done that. Cool, program. Right, let's get rid of this return. Okay, we're gonna get rid of solve day 2. In fact, that says day, yeah, it says day, silly. And we're gonna, instead of, so, this is all a bit of a mess. We're going to fix this later down the line. We're going to make it so sleek, and I'm really excited to do that, but today's not the day. Puzzle day equals new day 2 puzzle. Part 1 result equals puzzleday.solve part 1. We're going to ignore part 2 result. We're not going to write part 2 result out. We're just going to write out. In fact, let's group these together just to make it nicer. Console.writeLine part 1 result. Okay, so we've actually imported all of our data. It's kind of unnecessary to keep doing it. So I'm just going to comment out these lines of code. There is a keyboard shortcut to do that all in one go. I decided to do it the slow way, and that's fine. Sometimes it's just nice to use your keyboard. Here we go. 2369. Is that right? Let's find out. Oh, it's so exciting. Kaboom! We did it. Okay, lovely stuff. Prepare the data, nice data, good data, operate on it, easy. Easy. It's day 2. It's supposed to be easy. Easy though. Part 2. The elf says they've stopped producing snow because they aren't getting any water. He isn't sure why the water stopped. However, he can show you how to get to... Wait. Oh, okay, we're still... Okay, this is just... Okay. I was like, we didn't do a puzzle about water and snow. It's just up ahead. As you continue your walk, the elf poses a second question. In each game you played, what is the fewest number of cubes of each colour that could have been in the bag to make the game possible? Again, consider the games from earlier. In game 1, the game could have been played with as few as 4 red, 2 green and 6 blue cubes. If any colour had even 1 fewer cube, the game would have been impossible. Yeah, that makes sense. Game 2 would have been played with a minimum of 1 red, 3 green and 4 blue cubes. Game 2, 1... Yeah, because it's only got 1 red. Okay. I think we've already done this. the power of a set of cubes is equal to the numbers of red, green and blue cubes multiplied together. The power of the minimum set of cubes in game 1 is 48. Numbers of the red, green and blue cubes multiplied together. In games 2 to 5, it was 12, 15, 60, 630 and 36 respectively. Adding up these 5 powers produces the sum 2286. For each game, find the minimum set of cubes that must have been present. What is the sum of the power of these sets? We've done this. We've done this. This could be quick. This could be really quick. Power multiplied together. Okay. If I'm missing something, there might be a big load of egg about to come into collision with my face. But I'm pretty sure that we just need to do a multiplication here, and then it's all gravy. So let's just copy this first of all. Wait. What is the sum of the power? Okay, yep, that's fine. So rather than selecting model ID, no. For part 1, we need it there. For part 1, slow down. For part 2, model.red multiplied by model.blue multiplied by model.green. It can't be that simple. It can't be a one. But then again, could it? No. What have I've forgotten to do something. Solve day. It's not day 2. That's so silly. Why would anyone write that? Goodness sakes, what am I like? Okay, here we go. Console interface. Let's go. 13,048. Kind of seems too low. Wait, am I still need to filter those? Do I still need to filter those? Actually, let's have a look at game 3. Game 3 must have been played with at least 20 red. Ah, okay, so I need to stop filtering them. So it's even easier. I actually need to remove code. So I just need to get rid of this where. And I just need to multiply them all together. The number seemed a bit small to me. I was expecting something. Okay, 66,000. Oh, I did not copy that very well. Copied the code. Okay, let's try that again. Did I close the console? I did close the console window. Let's solve it again. 66363. 66363. The perfect code doesn't exist. I'm so happy with us. Look at this. Look at this. Oh, it's beautiful. One thing I would say is that I maybe wouldn't want all of this in the constructor if I was being really pernickety. But it's kind of got to go in the constructor because it's setting the red, blue and green values. Part 2 solved. Part 2 solved. Like a boss. Okay, there we have it. I'm so happy with that. We've got the database working. We're cooking with gas now. I look forward to seeing you for day 3. See you later.